Hello, classmates. My name is Tyler Hampton, and I'd like to discuss today with you a topic that I think is of utmost importance for not only my generation, but the generations to come and the generations previously. In 2003, a multidisciplinary study on energy conducted at MIT by 9 faculty members found that over the next 50 years, we are expected to make significant impacts to global warming through the release of hundreds of billions of tons of greenhouse gases directly from energy production. Thus, I think it is paramount that people today be conscious of where their energy is coming from. Now, I'm not here to debate the potential of climate change, but I do acknowledge if we have an opportunity to make some impact, shouldn't we? Therefore, I think it is our responsibility to seek out alternative energy forms. And I'm here today to convince you that nuclear energy is that energy form that we should seek out. It is safe, reliable, and highly effective at producing power. It's the best long-term option that we have with the least impact on the climate. Overall, public perception has caused the rates of nuclear energy usage to decrease. I think, in fact, we should be advocates for its use and future growth. During this conversation today, I want to demonstrate to you what clean energy sources currently exist and why they aren't viable enough. Then discuss how nuclear energy can fill that gap. And finally, I want you to visualize what a world increased nuclear energy production could look like. So let's take a pause a second. You might not be convinced about nuclear energy yet, right? But I think you'd all agree that we probably need to find some kind of alternatives to offset fossil fuels. Well, let's talk about those. In a study by Meriden in 2013, it found and defined that nuclear energy or renewable energy sources are defined as any energy resource that can be naturally renewed at a rate comparable or faster than the energy consumption rate of that resource. Under this definition, we can consider the following: wind, solar, hydropower, biomass, geothermal, and nuclear. For our conversations today, we're not going to delve too deep in biomass and geothermal, mainly because they take up a very small percentage of market share and have a lot of technological concerns related to their future. So for wind, solar, hydropower, and nuclear, we know the overall advantages, right? They protect the environment, they reduce greenhouse gas emissions, but there must be some disadvantages. And it just so happens for wind, solar, and hydropower, there are significant disadvantages. Volatility, for one, due to weather conditions or geographical locations. In fact, wind and solar can only produce output about 22% of the time in a year, according to a study in 2021. They also have inherent instabilities related to their technologies that support them. Wind and solar farms have phases where they produce less, or they don't produce at all. Additionally, they might sometimes overproduce and are very difficult to add to the power grid, causing about half of their overall potential to be lost. This was found in a study in 2016 by Petruska. Now let's flip over to hydropower, right? Hydropower has one of the highest potentials of efficiency and effectiveness. However, it has a massive environmental impact. Think of harvesting the power of a river or of the tides. Well, those environments in those areas are going to be significantly impacted by a hydropower plant. Overall, too, all of these that I've noticed, that I've mentioned, wind, solar, and hydropower, have high costs to produce, all higher between construction costs and maintenance costs than conventional fossil fuel means. We know we should be moving towards renewable energy resources. We know some are available, but they come with a lot of problems, as I mentioned: volatility, efficiency, and cost. We need to solve for those. So how can we solve for those? Is there something out there that exists? Well, it just so happens there is. Nuclear energy is safe, highly effective, and solves all three of those concerns while protecting the environment. In fact, nuclear energy has low volatility. Nuclear power plants can operate 85% of the hours in a year, compared to those 22% from wind and solar, according to a 2021 study. Additionally, I'm going to show a chart here for a second to show the true cost effectiveness per impact to the environment. Share my screen here. Take a look at this chart with me. We're specifically focusing on left side versus right side. What we're looking at here is the amount of CO2 equivalent released into the atmosphere per kilowatt hour of power produced. On the left side, you're obviously going to see conventional means: oil, gas, natural gas, right, and coal. However, on the right side, you're going to see our renewable energy resources: wind power, solar power, hydropower, like we talked about. What's interesting, and I think you'll find this interesting, the lowest number there, right, the least impact to the environment per kilowatt hour of energy, is nuclear power. Twice as effective as hydropower and wind power, and almost 10 times as effective as photovoltaic. Additionally, the last thing that we talked about, right, impacting the environment, we saw nuclear power has a positive impact on the environment overall. Well, the one thing you might ask, what about nuclear waste, right? Nuclear energy does create nuclear waste. Well, in a 2022 study by Ojibon, it was found that a multi-barrier approach, which is today organized by the International Atomic Energy Agency, which has scientific consensus and global agreement, is able to ensure that the doses provided by nuclear energy waste stay 8 times below natural background radiation in the area that that nuclear waste is contained. Nuclear waste is not spread out all over, it's contained to specific areas, and even in those areas, we can stay 8 times below natural background radiation. Laughlin says the main advantage to nuclear energy is that it is relatively low cost, consistently runs on its full potential, therefore making it an ideal power source for our national power grids. Now let's think, what would this look like, right? What would it look like to make more nuclear power plants? How could the world be changed? Well, if nuclear energy production was expanded 3 times over the next 25 years, we could reduce carbon emissions by 25%. This was found in that Monmouth study from 2003. That would avoid an annual 800 million tons of carbon emissions. Adopting nuclear power to its full potential could change the world. The demand for electricity is only going to continue to grow. So why are we holding ourselves back from one of the best options we have to offset non-renewable and carbon-emitting resources? Nuclear power has in fact declined in market share since 2003 due to policy and public perception, but it has so much to offer us. Therefore, I submit to you that anytime you have an opportunity to, you should vote and advocate for nuclear energy expansion and additional opportunities. I find it interesting, nuclear energy is literally the energy from the matter that composes us. It isn't energy from breaking down the decomposition products of the earth like fossil fuels are. And it isn't simply taking advantage of natural phenomena like the sun or the wind. It is us as human beings creating systems that can harvest power out of the things that make up the universe. Ultimately, it has unlimited potential, almost as if it was made for us. Thank you.